this is the Erikenstein. This is the car I talk a lot about, and I know Matt just fixed one of these up, and we're actually going to go through and build one of these through the first couple episodes of the show. I'm going to show you my kind of design process, what goes through my head when I'm thinking about it. But it is a fun car. Walk everyone through kind of the design process in my mind.
Sure.
And I figured we'd do the Erikenstein because I think the Erikenstein's a really cool car. I love it. I think it's really neat. But I do think you miss a lot of the details if you just take the car like this and try to put it into Gaslands, because when you take it apart, you're going to see a lot of cool detail that you might not have noticed before.
Right.
So this car is already drilled out. What I'm thinking for this car is, first of all, I don't like the engine.
Right.
I like how it's exposed, but I don't like the I guess those are 4-barrel carburetors sticking out the front of it. I don't like those. I want to put a hood scoop on it. You remember that ice cream truck I showed you earlier? I want to take one of these hood scoops and put it on the front on the engine here.
Right.
Because I think that's just going to make it look a little bit better. Also, I don't like the sunroof at all.
Right.
So I'm going to cover that up with some plastic card.
Okay.
So we can get rid of that. And then I got to decide what weapon I want to put on it. And what I'm thinking about doing is cutting this type of an intake piece off right here.
Right.
And I'm going to mount a guy inside with a machine gun.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So after I drill it, so what I want to do, though, is I got to strip all the paint, strip all the chrome. So after we take it apart,
right,
if you look at the interior of this car, let's let that get focused again. Right. Look at all that cool stuff that you won't really see.
Right.
Because when they chrome them, you lose all that.
Yeah.
So, because there's no color, it's just all one big.
It's all saturated, one color.
Yeah. So you got this big fan right here. Looks like there's something on the seat. I can't really make it out, but it looks like a rat or a cat.
Okay.
It's one or the other. Can you see that driver's seat?
Yeah.
It's either a rat or a cat. I can't tell. So this needs to be stripped so we can get all that chrome off. And then I want to strip all this paint off because I'm actually going to make these for the shop.
Okay.
This car for the shop. And I want to have it stripped down because I want to repaint it red.
Okay.
For IOG.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to do there. Also, when this is together, these are the wheels I don't like. See how they're just smooth?
Right.
They don't look like wheels. So we're gonna salvage off of one of the other vehicles I've got laying around. We're gonna put some better wheels on this.
Okay.
So those are the things we're gonna do. So last week I stripped all the paint down. So as you can see, the cars actually look really nice without paint on them. So when you strip the paint down, you'll start noticing certain flaws in the car. So like this one, you can barely see it, but there's some flashing right here on the edge. So first thing you're going to want to do before you start really diving into this is, clean up some of the flashing that you're seeing on the car. It's a little bit, if you don't do it now and you think you're going to do it later, you might forget. And then when you go to paint it, then you're going to realize you had that on there. The other thing is I don't like these rear lights. There's these two rear lights here, and I don't like them. So we're going to go ahead and remove those. And we got a couple different options for removing any of the metal on these cars. If it's a small thing like this, you could easily just take a pair of wire cutters. Don't use your plastic snips that you use for models. You're going to want to use like a pair of wire cutters. And you can just literally just cut this off. It's just pot metal. And it's off just like that. And it's going to leave a little bit of a knob left. And then you're just going to take your file and just file it down. But it's important, and I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but there's actually some detail on the top of this metal. There's little rivets or bolts holding in that piece of metal. So you want to be careful not to damage that when you're filing this down. And this is just one way you can do it. The other way is you could take what is known as a jeweler's saw. And all this is, so a jeweler's saw is a very thin blade, and it is designed obviously for cutting jewelry. So it's meant for cutting very soft metals like gold and silver. So when you are using these, you will break blades. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. Luckily, you can buy blades. They're relatively cheap. I bought this set, and it has a variety of different thicknesses or cutting teeth, from an O1 to a 6. And obviously, the higher the number, the coarser the teeth are. So it's going to cut more material. And same thing, so I'm going to try to do this on camera without cutting myself. Want to be careful of the detail on the car. And you're just going to take this saw and you got to be gentle with a jeweler's saw. Like I said, the blades are delicate. And if you just grind into it like if you thought like a hacksaw, then you're going to cause problems. And then when you get down towards the end, just slow down. And there it goes. And then afterwards, just like the other side, just take a file, clean up the saw marks, and now that light's completely gone. And I touched right there and I kind of messed those up, so that's bad on me. So for this, since it's just plastic, it's okay just to use your regular hobby snips. I could use the wire cutters, but I think they're going to cause more damage than it's worth. You just get a good clean snip off, and then I'll take my regular sanding stick, and now we're going to go find a scoop that I like. And that's the scoop I want to take off and put on the Erikenstein, because I think it's a really nice scoop and I think it's going to look good on the car. So for cutting this off, the plastic, it's a hard plastic, but I want to be pretty careful cutting it off. So I don't want to use snips or anything like that, because I want a good flat smooth cut. So what I'm going to take is, I've got this X-Acto blade, and it's a flat blade. And this is a pretty stable item, so I'm pretty confident that I can hold the item and just kind of rock the blade back and forth, and hopefully I should be able to cut it off. And there it goes. So we cut it off. I'll put the rest of that back in my bits box. And I think we're good. So we're going to file down the bottom of this a little bit. And then we'll start sizing it up. I was pretty confident that this would work, and it works good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this glued on, and then we'll put it back on the car so we can see what it looks like. So right now I'm just gonna kind of size this up. See, this is the look I'm kind of going with for this. So I'll set that off to the side, let that dry. Now, what I want to do next is start looking at what I'm going to do here. So we already know I want to cut this back piece off of this car and have a person standing there. And we also know we want to cover up the sunroof, because I just don't like the way that looks. So we're going to cut this plastic. So if you've never cut clear plastic before, even though this is smoked or tinted, going at it with snips isn't necessarily the best route to go, because this is a very fragile plastic. And if you try to cut things with a snip with this, it sometimes can crack and shatter and cause problems. So what I got is, I got two different hacksaw blades. These are just, this is a run-of-the-mill hacksaw blade that you can find at any hardware store. And it's really good for cutting the plastic. I got a fine tooth blade. And then I found this one at Harbor Freight. And this is a really cool blade that I found. And what I would do, so it only took a few seconds to cut that off, and it's gone. And this window will still work. So the window still works, but we cut that back piece off. So now we can actually put a person in there. So let's build this back up. So we want to have a person standing back here. And last week I showed you the implements of carnage. It's this character right here. You can see his hands are kind of close together, so that's kind of like how you would be shooting a machine gun. And we want him standing in the back of the car. And then we just want to size him up to see how he's going to look, because let me show you from the side. If I put him in and if I don't make any modifications to the car or the person, he's standing way too high to be shooting a machine gun. And I want the machine gun mounted on the top of the cab of the car. So I have two options here. I can chop the plastic out of the car, or I can chop the legs off the guy. Either one would work, but let's go ahead and look at chopping the plastic out, because that should allow the model to stand all the way down to the base, which should give me enough room to adjust the character up or down. So we want to cut this out. And again, we can grab our hacksaw. Now I want to be careful not to cut all the way through. So now that I gotta go sideways, like none of my saw blades are gonna get in there. So now I'm gonna go back to my chisel, and I'm just gonna start rocking it back and forth and try to cut this out. So what we're basically cutting out is this cool fan detail. Again, this is why this is a little bit, you know, you want to be careful, you want to be cautious. You don't want to hurt yourself. I don't want to see you guys coming in with cut off fingers or anything. So pulling that fan off, so two things happened. First off, as you can see how it came out, I pretty much got a good cut. So now I can save this fan bit for another car build or do something else with it. So sometimes taking your time cutting these pieces out, you kind of get yourself some other pieces. And we opened up the bottom, so now when we put our pieces back together and we start looking at putting the guy in, we can size up everything, and now he's a lot lower. It's hard to do it with my fingers in the way, but now he's a lot lower. So now when I mount that machine gun, it's going to look oh, there it is. Now he'll look a lot more realistic, and he won't be too high. So that's going to be our weapons guys standing out, and we still have room to adjust. We can put them down lower if we have to. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the window off. We're going to take this piece of plastic that's back here. We're going to glue it in, and then I'm going to take scraps of styrene, fill in as much as I can, then put some epoxy sculpt over it, and then we're going to be good to go. All right, so I got this piece here. It's the right thickness, and it's got a little bit of a gap, so we'll probably just go with this, because this will make it nice and easy. So let me zoom in so you guys can see. So this is a pretty easy one, and I just need to make one simple cut. And that's it. So I'll glue that in, and then I'll take epoxy sculpt. Then I'll go in and I'll get the epoxy sculpt. I'll epoxy sculpt it down, let it dry for 24 hours, come back, sand it smooth, and then that roof will be done, and it'll look beautiful when it's done. So now let's talk a little bit about wheels again. I do like talking about wheels.
Wheels.
So the thing about Hot Wheels, and if you're going to do a wheel swap, Hot Wheels will put the wheels in a couple different fashions, but the majority of them just have these tabs, as you can see right here. This is a double tab right here, and then this tab up here is the more common that you'll see on most Hot Wheels. If you wanted to take the front wheels off, you would just simply cut this one tab, and these wheels will just pop right out. If you want to take these back ones out, you could, if you wanted to, take a X-Acto blade, put it in there and kind of pry these open. Or you could just cut the tabs like this, and then the wheels just come right out. It's just that simple. And then since we're already going to glue the wheels in, it doesn't matter that you cut those tabs because you're just going to glue the new wheels in. So, and they still kind of snap in, and you're just going to glue them down. So now we're going to go hunting for some wheels. All right, so I think I found the wheels I want. They're not going to fit because these are a wider axle plus, so I'm going to have to widen the axle out a little bit, or the hole out, and it looks like I'm going to have to do some modifications to the car to make these fit. But these are the wheels I want to go with. So let's kind of put the car back together, because I think those would look a lot better back there than what was on there. The other thing we're going to have to do, though, is we're going to have to widen the channel that the wheels go in,
Right.
because everything's in the way. So this is where I like these files from Harbor Freight, because they're like the perfect size for the channel on the Hot Wheels. So just that 5 seconds of sanding and everything, that axle fits perfectly. So we'll do a little bit of sanding, but I don't think we need to do a lot. I think we just need to clean up the edges a little bit to give the wheel a little bit of room. So there we go. That's the wheel's on. It really fills up the back of that car, which I really like.
Yeah.
And it just makes it look a little bit more post-apocalyptic to me. So that's what we're going with. And it is a little tight, so I'll clean up some more of that, and we'll get that underway. And now we already know we can also, I guess we have enough axle, we can play around with it a little bit. We don't have to go that close to the body. I got plenty of axle room. Look at that. All right, so we're going to leave the front wheels alone because, like I said, when I was originally getting into this, the front wheels are pretty much covered up, and you don't see much of them, so I think it's going to work. But I don't feel I need to take them off, but I do want to glue them down. So when you're gluing down your wheels, just be, kind of just squeeze them together, because the axles are a little loose. I don't know if you can see that play in there. So what I want to do is I just want to pinch them together, and then I'm going to put a little drop of glue where the back of the wheel comes in contact with the frame of the car. So the front wheels are done. They're glued in place. I won't have to worry about those. I'm going to work on the back wheels a little bit later. And right now what I want to do is get the epoxy sculpt out, because I don't know if everyone here, maybe some people haven't played with epoxy sculpt. So we'll go over a little bit, but it is going to, once I put it on, it's going to take like 24 hours for it to dry. Epoxy sculpt. All this is a two-part product. So just like green stuff or any resin type products you may use, 50-50 mix. So pop it open, you have like a light gray, and you just pull out a little piece of it. I like to wad it right up into a ball so I can get an idea of how much of it I have. And then the black is just a little bit darker. And this is the gray colored stuff. So obviously everything's gray. So you just want approximately 2 pieces that are about the same. Yeah, that's rough enough. That's good enough. And then just like green stuff or any other type of stuff you may use, you just mix it up. So with this, since I don't need this to look pretty, we are not, we're going to sand off most of this. So I'm just going to press it hard into the to the cracks and crevices. So that's it. It's a sloppy job, but I'm okay. I already knew the plastic was higher than the metal, so we're going to end up sanding all of that down. So the next step we're going to look at is I don't want to have front glass on my car. We want to add screen mesh to the front of this. So what we need to do is just get the rough size of what we want. And we're only doing the front window. I want the side windows to be open because I want the driver and the other gunner to be able to reach out with hand weapons and shoot. So I want to keep some realism on that side of things. So we just want to cover the front window. So it's always better to cut wide or cut big before you cut small, so you can make sure you got enough material. And then we're going to go from the inside kind of get it in the right position. And because it's aluminum, it's going to bend and shape for us real easily. So now you can kind of see the mesh. It doesn't look perfect, but it looks good enough to get started. And then we need to start pressing it down in the corners. This is where I'm just using the X-Acto blade. And then I want to put a little bit of glue there since I've kind of got it where I want it. It actually looks pretty good the way it is. But I want to get the driver's side down a little bit more because it looks like it's sticking out. So again, this is aluminum, so it's not hard to work with. It's not. You could try to use like a screen door repair kit, and I've done that before on other cars, but that stuff falls apart. Oh, and I just bumped everything out of place. Look at me. The screen door stuff falls apart real easy. So yeah. So what I'm going to do is get some glue on it, and then I'll let it dry. Then I'll actually flatten it out, and then I can actually bend all of the diamonds and everything the way I want them. But I'm happy with the way that looks. Actually looks good. Last week we did a lot of customization on this car.
Right.
And we got it to a certain point, and I want to kind of show where we got it to. So this is what we got done last week. I cleaned up the sunroof, got all that cleaned up. I shortened the axle. I picked up some of these this week so I can cut axles better.
They come in really handy.
Yes. So I got that. The axle's still not glued down, so it still needs to be glued down. And then I've got the person all set and ready to go inside. I figured out how I trimmed up the legs a little bit, the feet, so that it could just pop right down. So the next thing to talk about is the gun. Right. And I decided to do the same thing. I'm going to go with the air-cooled or the water-cooled guns.
Right.
Now, the thing that I have to decide on, though, is how do I want the guns on the top of the car with the person inside? And as it's got my big old hands in the way.
Right.
But do I want them in the back like that? And I felt that made the guns go too far forward. So what I decided I was going to do is have his hands on top of the back of the guns just like this.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm going to go with that.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, so let me tack it together because that's one of the joys of using tack.
Silly tack.
Poster tack. I have poster tack. What do you use?
Blue tack. Same thing.
Same thing?
Yep, same thing.
So let me put a little back here. So this is good stuff when you're just trying to mock up cars like you were doing.
Right.
Just you just put the stuff inside you put it on the scoop, didn't you? You had it on the.
Yeah, I done the scoop. I put it. I had it holding the wheels in place, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It just lets me mock it up to make sure that I'm not crazy in my design.
So this just puts my car, holds everything together so things aren't flopping all over the place. So I just want to size it up, make sure everything's good and straight. And that's what I'm looking at. You know, I think I'm going to do one other thing to this car. And it's something we kind of talked about a little bit.
Right.
So I glued the weapons on. That was pretty simple.
Right.
But the exhaust pipe right here.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get rid of those. And I think I'm going to create my own exhaust pipes just using a simple plastic styrene tube.
Right.
And I think I might add them out like this, have them coming out at an angle. But I think I'm just going to cut these off. And I think I'll just go flat with the blade. See, because the car itself has this opening right there.
Yep, yep.
For the pipes to be coming out of. But you see where I'm going with that pipe?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So
I think that'll look cool, man.
Just something different.
It will look cool.
Again, it's not hard to do this stuff. So all I did with that is it's just glued onto the platform of the car.
Right.
So when I put this down, it'll fit in between there. The black piece will fit in between there, and then when I put the car body on, it'll look like it's just sticking out the side.
Sounds like a plan to me, buddy.
Yeah. So I'll give that super glue some time to dry, then I'll refit everything, but it shouldn't be any problem. And if it is, I've got a knife and a sander, so, but yeah, everything fits. So that's pretty much it. What I'll do is when it all dries is I'll clean up the edges and I'll re-round the holes.
Right.
But I just want my exhaust sticking out the side. But with the guy back there, I think it's going to look really cool.
I agree.
But that's what I wanted those tubes to just kind of make those exhaust pipes just kind of sticking out.
Yeah, no, I like it.
So that's where I'm going with that. So this is the body of the car. So I painted up the interior and got the bottom all glued together so you can see my wheels, got the engine, got the pipes. I decided that that is a rat sitting on the front seat eating a pizza. That is what I've decided.
Well, that's kind of what it looks like.
Yes, there was a debate online about it when I posted the picture. Some people said it was a puppy. I'm like, that's one weird looking puppy. So it's a rat eating pizza. So that's the body. It's the interior and the chassis. And then here's the body. So I went with a gloss red for right now. It will be matte varnished. And then I painted in these details here, the in between the tubes. I also painted the back one just to give it a little bit more dimension. And I added the Imperial Outpost decals to it.
Ooh.
So these are those custom decals I made. There's the logo on the door. And then I did Imperial Outpost Games on the fender there using two different of the decals that I have. Gunner, he's all primed. I just need to dry brush him white and then paint him up real quick, and he should be finished. So for tonight, I just want to put the other two decals on. All right, so that's my custom IOG decal that I made. So on this Imperial Outpost Gaming decal, I'm actually cutting off the Imperial Outpost part of the decal because I want to use the larger one that I have on one of the other decals. Now, when you make these custom decals, they're all on a solid sheet, so you got to try to cut as close to the decal as you can, so that way you don't have the clear backing just sitting there. But since I'm going on such a flat surface, I can be a little loose. I don't have to be precise, but you do want to cut as much off as you can without. So I'm actually going to pull some paint out real fast to give kind of a little secret for painting these smaller miniatures. As you can tell, I primed it black. It's not too terribly exciting, but this is probably a 20 mil figure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush it with some ivory. And this way I can then I'll keep some of the black in the shadow, and then I can just pull out some of the details and I can paint it up real quick. So anyways, now that I dry brushed him, now that we know it's a him, you can really see all of his details.
Yes.
So you kind of know where you need to paint, what you need to paint. And this white dry brush, that white will pop out just a little bit more with the paint because that's just how paint works. If you paint over whites or brighter colors, it will the colors will be brighter. So this was just quick and easy. I still got to do the duty belt or the stuff around his belt and a few straps. but he'll be fine.